Hello there, my friends. Welcome back to the Vaults Remaster. Today's episode, we're continuing Pathfinder basic training. We're looking at episode 9, action 9, reaction 9, whatever this one is. It is the Seek action. Check this out. We've got Concentrate and Secret. We have our first secret trait. If you don't know what the secret trait means, that means the GM, moi, is going to roll this d20 check for the player. It's a secret what happens because you don't know what the results are as a player. There's no metagaming with this one. We saw the concentrate trait in an earlier, forget which one it was, one of our actions, but it was you can not concentrate. It requires mental powers. So if you are distracted somehow, under some sort of mental effect that might debuff your ability to comprehend things, well, then the seek action is not going to work for you. All right, so what is the seek action? Well, it's what it sounds like. You are scanning an area, you're searching an area, you're looking for creatures, objects, maybe secret doors, hazards, things like that. You choose an area you want to scan, and the GM determines the area of your seek action because you may need to spend multiple actions or multiple turns in order to seek information from a much larger area. So, the typical dimension they're given here is about 30 feet or less in any dimension. So, I'm assuming that is like a cube, like a 30-foot cube total. So, 30 this way, that way. I'm assuming, or maybe like a 30-foot cone. I'm not sure exactly how to adjudicate that one yet, but I'm guessing it would be just your basic vision within 30 feet. You might have a penalty imposed if you're farther away. So if you're trying to see something 60 feet away, 120 feet away, something like that. Or like I said, it might take more actions in order to search through a highly cluttered area. And by the way, I don't want to use the word search because that's a separate action in the game. So seek. The GM attempts the single perception check, so it's based upon your perception roll, which everybody is trained in perception in Pathfinder, so it's going to use your wisdom. It's going to use your training bonus, which is +2. It's going to use your level bonus because you're trained, and I think some people are experts in perception as well, so that would boost you up another 2. But anyway, you go ahead and you roll this perception check in secret. That I know is a bit of contention, especially for players coming from D&D world, where nothing is secret, right? Everything is known and rolled by the players. But this is nice because it allows you to prevent sort of that that meta knowledge where a player. I'm sure if you DM the game and you ask for a check and the player rolls and immediately they're like, nope, I don't know anything. That kind of spoils it, right? Because if you fail something, you still might know something, and it just might know the wrong thing. And so they actually take the agency away from the game master when they do that. So shame on you players for not just telling the GM, DM what your role is. Let them arbitrate what you see, don't see, hear, or whatever. So anyway, you're going to compare that perception check to, let's say you're trying to look for something hidden or undetected. You'd look at their stealth DCs in that example. Or if there's an object that's hidden, and the DC on those is determined by the GM. It could be something arbitrary like, oh, it's a DC 10 if it's kind of out in the open, DC 15, 20, whatever it is. Or if somebody's trying to conceal something, keep it hidden, there would be a DC for that. A creature you detect might remain hidden rather than becoming observed. We're going to get into that because Pathfinder has a bunch of different levels of perception and detection, which I still don't have my head wrapped around it. So maybe some of you all in the comments can clarify anything I mess up. And of course, while you're commenting, you might as well like and subscribe to the video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, notify all those cool things that you're supposed to do, right? But anyway, so a creature you detect might remain hidden. They might not be fully observed by you. If you're using imprecise senses like smell or hearing, that kind of thing. So there's various obstacles besides just you can't see it. Critical success and success. This is one of our actions so far, basic actions that has level degrees of success and failure. So if you critically succeed, any undetected or hidden creature you critically succeeded against becomes observed by you. We're going to look at what that means in a minute. You learn the location of objects in the area you critically succeeded against. All right, then success, any undetected creatures you succeeded against becomes hidden from you instead of undetected. So there's a degrees of this perception or detection. So you're going to see there's undetected, there's hidden, there's what else? Unobserved. Anyway, observed. All kinds of different degrees here. So this goes on to say, any hidden creatures you succeeded against become observed by you. You learn the location of any object or get a clue to its whereabouts as determined by the GM. So here there's a lot of terms that kind of sound the same, but they're not. Undetected, hidden, concealed, you're going to see is another one. You observe something, you detect something. What's all the differences between those? I've been trying to make sure I get this right as I'm reading this myself. So here's what uh, some of the rules that you need to start thinking about besides just the seek action. So in the GM core, page 27, they give you some more information about the seek action. So the seek action leaves it up to you, the GM, how long a search should take. So you don't have to just say the player's spending one action to search. By the way, a lot of times, again, I reference D&D here, but a lot of times the player's like, oh, I'm gonna, before I do anything, what do I see? And then in D&D world, most times the DM says, "Oh, you see this guy over there. You think you see that over there. Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and attack." Well, in Pathfinder, you have action economy. Seek is an action, so don't just tell your player immediately what they see unless it's literally right there in front of them or what they hear. Make them work for it. So if they enter a new room and their initial scan is, "Hey, it looks empty. It looks quiet. What do you want to do?" A player should have to make a seek action if they want to learn anything beyond the obvious right in front of them. So that's what this alludes to, and then you can determine how long it's going to take. If it's a big room, cluttered room, there's some smoke in the room, whatever, it's going to take longer than a simple single action. Use your common sense. Most of the time, you're just trying to spot a creature hiding in a small area or something else you could find with a simple seek action rather than a long-term search exploration activity. I already mentioned that search is a different thing. That could just be a single action if you're doing this. The biggest distinction whether something uses your three actions, which would be searching usually, or fewer and can therefore be accomplished in a single turn, requires significantly longer and can't be accomplished in an encounter at all. That kind of doesn't make sense. The biggest distinction is whether something uses three actions or fewer or requires significantly longer. Okay, so if it's something within a player's turn, one, two, or three actions, then it sounds like you'd use seek. If it's something that's going to take them more than a turn, going to take a couple minutes, let's say, now you're looking at the search activity. Okay, so just clarifying that. And we'll take a look, hopefully, at search at a later time. I'm not going to do it today, but that's something to consider because some of these activities, obviously, they take longer. That's one difference, but there may be differing degrees of what you see, don't see, success, failure, that sort of thing. So that's the other issue you want to be concerned about. If you're going to use seek or search, which one do you use? How long is it going to take? All right, continuing on here. Consider whether it makes sense for the character to pull this off during the encounter or not, and whether that could be an interesting wrinkle in the story. So really, if it's something minor in the plot or the narrative sense, then you might as well just let them use seek action or two or three. If it's something that maybe there's more to it, something more interesting, then the search activity exploration may make more sense. Especially because once you get in exploration mode, you're now dropping out of encounter mode. That can then allow players to, let's say, refocus or heal up or whatever else. So you're kind of switching the gears if you're going to do this. All right, then the other thing that came out or that you want to be familiar with is the perception and detection rules. This is in Player Core 433. And this part gets into what sort of senses are you using. There's precise senses, which are typically in most humanoid, character scenarios. That's going to be their vision. So average vision is precise sense, a sense that can be used to perceive the world in nuanced detail. The only way to target a creature without having drawbacks is to use precise sense. Now, you may have other precise senses, especially for creatures, or if you have some sort of ancestry that allows you, let's say, precise hearing or precise smell, perhaps. That might be a precise sense for that person or that creature. You can usually detect a creature automatically with a precise sense unless that creature is hiding or they're obscured by the environment. So that's what I meant. Like when you walk in a room, what do you see? What do you hear? That sort of thing. If it's right out in the open, they're not trying to hide themselves or mask themselves, or there's no obscurement in the room, bang, the character should see it. In which case, they have to use the seek action. All right. Imprecise senses. Average hearing is an imprecise sense. It can't detect the full range of detail that precise senses can. You can usually sense a creature automatically with an imprecise sense, but it has the hidden condition instead of the observed condition. Okay, again, we got a lot of different variables here that we have to take a look at. I would say this is probably the most complex combination of action, seek, and then all the conditions and rules that are around it, because you've got the action seek versus the search activity. Then you've got what kind of senses are being used, and then you're going to see there's different concealment, not concealed, hidden, not hidden. It gets really complicated, in my opinion. All right, so anyway, needlessly complicated, I would dare say. All right, so continuing on here. So you can usually sense a creature automatically with an imprecise sense, but it has the hidden condition instead of the observed condition. So you hear it, but you don't observe it, see it, so it's hidden. It might be undetected, which is even more hidden if it's using stealth or is in an environment that distorts the sense, like a noisy room in the case of hearing, or maybe a smelly area in case of sense of smell. In those cases, you have to use the seek basic action to detect the creature. At best, an imprecise sense can be used to make an undetected creature, or one you didn't even know was there, which would be, I think, unnoticed. Merely hidden, it can't make the creature observed. All right, so you have to know what kind of sense your character is using, and this may be a narrative choice by you, the GM. Can they see something moving, or do they just hear it? All right, then what else do you need to know? Then there's the detection part. So this is you're taking this action you're seeking. So there are additional rules, 434 perception detection section. There are these conditions: observed, hidden, undetected. So observed is you observe it. So in most circumstances, you can sense a creature without difficulty and you can target them. You see them, they're right there. Creatures in that state are observed. Observing requires that precise sense, which in most game terms is sight, but there could be precise, hearing in some weird creatures or maybe tremor sense, something like that. If you can't observe the creature, though, so even though you know it's there, but you can't observe it, it is hidden. You then go over to this next category. Okay, and even if it is observed, there's also the concealed condition, which has to do with obscurement like mist or smoke or fog or something to that effect. All right, so if you can't observe, it's either hidden, undetected, or unnoticed, and you'll need to factor that in. So you got observed as the least one, right? There's nothing preventing you from seeing it. You can target it, you can go after it. Observed. That's most scenarios. The next degree over is it's hidden from you. So a creature that's hidden is barely perceptible, which kind of sounds a little bit like concealed, but concealed is more the environment is providing some sort of concealment. Hidden is the creature itself. So that's kind of where you're sort of splitting the hairs on this one. You know what space it occupies, but little else. So you know it's there, but it's hard to see exactly what you're targeting, I guess. So perhaps the creature just moved behind some cover. It used the hide action. Your target might be behind a waterfall where you can see some movement, maybe some blurry movement, but you can't determine the exact location. Maybe you've been blinded by something or the creature's invisible, but you just use the seek action, so that turned it from undetected or from hidden or from invisible into hidden. Anyway, you're off guard to this creature, you're not exactly sure where it is. When you're targeting it, before you roll, you have to do a flat DC 11 just to get a chance to hit it. And if you fail, you can't affect the creature even though the actions you used are still expended. So this is a little bit interesting here, or well, confusing, because it says when you're targeting, before you roll to determine your effect, you could do the DC 11 check. If you fail, you don't affect the creature, though the actions you used are still expended. So, the attempt doesn't sound like you've actually taken an action yet. So I guess if you declare an action, that's the attempt and you've spent the action, even if you roll a DC 11. It's the way I guess I'm reading it, although the wording seems a little bit wonky on that one. You remain off guard to the creature whether you successfully target it or not. Okay, so that's part of the problem I find with the conditions is they're in paragraph form rather than little bullet lists. Like just tell me, off guard, DC 11. Give me a little bullet checklist that I can glance, and then if I need the details, I can read through this whole thing. That's what I'm having some issues here with. Give me the basics and then give me the details. All right, then there's the undetected condition. So this is even more hidden. If a creature's undetected, you don't know what space it occupies. So unlike hidden where you knew what space it's in, you don't know what space it's in. You're off guard just like hidden, and you can't easily target it. If you use the seek basic action, it can help you find the undetected creature, usually making it hidden, so it elevates it up to hidden instead of undetected. If a creature's undetected, that doesn't necessarily mean you're unaware of its presence. That would be unnoticed, which is another degree of detection or seeking. That would be even more undetected, completely unnoticed. But anyway, if a creature's undetected, that doesn't necessarily mean you're unaware of its presence. You might suspect an undetected creature is in the room with you, even though you're unable to find its space. The unnoticed condition covers creatures you're unaware of. Okay, exactly how different that is from unnoticed, I guess unnoticed is you have no clue. Undetected means you have no clue, like exactly where they are, but you think they're in there. So I guess you saw someone run into a room, you chase after them, but they're undetected, as opposed to you open up a brand new room, you're not suspecting anything, they would be unnoticed. Does that matter in mechanical terms? I don't know. I don't think it does, but I'm not sure. Targeting an undetected creature is difficult. If you suspect there's a creature around, you can pick a square and attempt an attack. This works like targeting a hidden creature. So I guess that's what the DC 11, but the flat check and attack roll are both rolled in secret by the GM. All right, so I don't know if it's still the same DC 11 or not, or you can adjust it. So the flat check DC 11 and the attack roll, so that's funny. So you think you know where it is and you fire an arrow. So GM would roll the DC 11 to see if it even hit at all. And then they're going to roll an attack roll. I assume I'm rolling 2d20 so I don't give away anything. So you won't tell why you missed, whether it was due to failing the flat check, rolling an insufficient attack roll, or choosing the wrong square. So you're basically blindly firing at something. The GM might allow you to try targeting an undetected creature with some spells or other abilities in a similar fashion. Maybe they get an advantage to reflex saves or something. I don't know. Undetected creatures are subject to area effects normally. Well, that makes sense. I don't know about you, but this is kind of confusing. I almost feel like why didn't they just give this a number value instead? Like hidden 1, hidden 2, hidden 3, that sort of thing to make it a little easier to follow rather than words that are pretty much synonyms. Hidden, undetected, unnoticed, concealed. I mean, if you look those up in a thesaurus, they're probably all in the same definition, right? But you're supposed to know the difference in game terms, even though in common language there's really no difference between those. So anyway, I don't like the vocab here. I would think it would be easier just to say hidden 1 is, middle paragraph here. Hidden 2 is third paragraph here. Hidden 3 is the unnoticed condition. And then you have a bulleted little list that tells you exactly what that means. And then hidden 0 or observed, you can see it. Anyway, that was my take on it. So hopefully that was useful and you're not as confused by all these levels. And I didn't even talk about invisible or concealed because those conditions, from what I can tell, apply specifically to the creature, whereas these conditions apply to the observer. And they apply to the seek action more directly, at least the way I was interpreting them. So I didn't include concealed or invisible, but realize those can also impact these. Like you can be hidden and concealed at the same time. You can be undetected and concealed. So anyway, just a little bit of weirdness in all the definitions here. But hopefully that was useful. Hopefully that was informational. If it was, you go ahead and like and subscribe and all that cool stuff that YouTube wants you to do to show your love. And hopefully you'll check out the next video as well. We're going to get into I think some of the attacking stuff is coming up. Striking and stepping and striding. All right, have a good night.